Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. And today we're getting into the topic of being in the matrix as far as society is concerned. So this kind of came up before as a talking point with a couple of people I was talking with, and just about how the average person is kind of not really in tune with how little control they have over what's going on, even in their own life. I don't mean that from a basic everyday, day-to-day kind of, you decide to go to the supermarket, you decide to go do laundry or anything of that sort, but more so in the fact of the way that, there's this sense of control, there's the sense of safety, there's the sense of that there's order, there's the sense of that things are functioning in a way that, everything is supposed to be okay. Even when we have moments that we say to ourselves, oh, society is, kind of taking a turn for the worse, or maybe, certain things are changing or whatever the case is. We still don't fully believe that, when it comes to the reality of it. We still say that, but then we go about our regular day, everyday thing and whatnot. But essentially there is this like matrix, if you will, as far as, and obviously this is a play on the words or the theme of the movie concept, but that we're living in a structure that we think is real and it's not. This system that exists does not really apply to everybody, but almost like the idea of where we think that there's this concept of that everybody's how should I say, like everybody's life is we'll just say, be okay. There's certain things that apply in this system that benefit people, and other things that don't really apply to people, while you think you're underneath that umbrella and it doesn't really apply to you. And that's part of like this matrix of thinking that all the things that are supposed to benefit everybody, at least here in this country, in the US, apply to everybody. And it really doesn't. It applies to certain people in terms of opportunities, in terms of the way courts are handled, in terms of the way job opportunities, in terms of the way, like all these kind of different things that don't necessarily, while you think on your everyday life, until you come across those things, you think that they are privileges or things, benefits that you apply to you. They actually don't, until you run into them and then realize, wait a minute, like these things don't apply to me. These things that are supposed to be beneficial, that I've been taught for a long time or since I was young, are supposed to be beneficial, are not beneficial to me. I'm not getting a slice of that pie, or the benefit to it doesn't apply to me. And that's when you realize that the hard way. And this is very important for just navigating your future, because a lot of people sometimes won't know it until they get there. And so it's really important to have this sense or understanding of, how do you navigate your future? There's the basic way that a lot of us are always just taught when you're young. And then once you're kind of in the know or taught, and that's what we're going to try to do here, kind of break down a couple of points that will help you with this. It allows you to navigate this space a little bit better, and being a little bit more aware of what's actually going on around you. This also includes our illusion of security in our lives, and not specifically just our lives, but just in society in general, and not realizing how that works. This can apply down to safety. It can be applied to government leadership. It applies to our financial system, all these kind of things that we think on an everyday basis. This sense of false security, of that everything's just supposed to maintain, and not necessarily is the case. For example, you might have people who say, okay, when I reach a certain age, I expect to be able to retire. Maybe at 65, which is always the age that's been toted around. 65 and I'm going to retire, which I've mentioned on the channel in the past, that's kind of a long time to retire. But let's just assume a person's going off that basis. And they might just think that, okay, there'll be enough for me. When I get to that time, I'll be able to just sit back and, go on vacation all the time, live my life, everything's going to be taken care of. And that's just an example of this false, security, or this illusion of security that makes you think that things are supposed to automatically work out, and that's not true. Most people will get to that point and realize it doesn't work that way. Most people are either stuck working, or say if they do retire at 65, they are not bringing in enough money to actually enjoy their life. They're bringing in enough money just to survive and sit there. That's it. They can't leave the house. When I say that, I don't mean like physically they can't leave the house, but in the sense of, yes, they do their everyday stuff. They go, grocery shop and this and that, but they can't do anything. They can't really enjoy themselves because they don't have the finances for it. So that's what I mean as an example of that. And this applies to a lot of different things. So we're going to go over a couple things to kind of focus on when it comes to this. And I know this topic can be expanded on a lot more in a bigger perspective, but we're going to speak on a couple of things that I feel will help with this as far as somebody in their future planning and in a way to try to avoid some of these things. So first and foremost is, and like I said, we've spoken on this topic in more detail on the channel in the past. We're just going to breeze over this a little bit, but learning to save and budget. This is a big deal. Learning to save and budget. And then finally, investing. So this is very important because this is something you want to start early. And a lot of people sometimes don't. They go about the basis of they work their 9 to 5. Maybe they work a job that will give them some type of financial security down the line. But at the same time, it's important for you to think outside of that box and put away extra beyond that. And I know sometimes it might seem like a lot. Like I said, if you look back at some of the past episodes on the channel, we really broke down in detail on ways to try to press to save more than just what is within the balance of, like, say, just a job, just you putting away a bit of money on the side, and investing. And I break all that stuff down. But essentially, and what I'll do is I'll put the link in the description for a few of those investment videos, or maybe one of my main key ones where I went over a lot of those points. But essentially, this is very important as far as learning to save and to budget. I would say also too, I'm going to add in the fact that if you can, most people, obviously you do your taxes. If you have a really good tax person who's not just the type who is about just doing your taxes, but they're really good at financial planning and this and that, I would say sit down with them if you need to, not only to find a plan for budgeting, but in addition to that, I would say really kind of getting an idea of investing. Maybe they could teach you a little bit in terms of investing and really kind of just helping to manage with the money as far as, the long term. But essentially that is the beginning part of the pie. One of the things to help you in your understanding, like I said, of breaking out of the matrix and having a better sense of security for yourself as far as the things that you don't know you're going to encounter in life. Because a lot of times too, you're going to see that everything revolves around your resources and your ability to affect or change your future. And this is how you get this better sense of, now I wouldn't even say better sense, I'm sorry. I would say gives you an answer to when you run into those problems and realize, wait a minute, like this life that I'm living is not real. You know what I mean? And when that happens, you're going to need the resources to be able to go, okay, well, you know what? Like, yes, these are going to help me when I have to navigate running into these problems. So that's the one thing you're definitely going to start with, and definitely kind of break into that zone. Really plan, budget. Very important. I can't stress it enough. The next thing I'm going to talk about kind of goes hand in hand with that previous concept about budgeting and saving is research you taking your assets out of your name or protecting them in some way. Find a way to protect them. Do the research. Like I said, if you have a financial planner on your side, often your tax person doubles as a financial planner. If your tax person is not that good, ask someone else about if they have a tax person. Specifically, I would say if you know a tax person who does business taxes, they will definitely have a bit more knowledge in this as well. And like I said, if you have a tax person who really just does personal taxes for just people who just do, you get a W-2, work 9 to 5. that type of thing. If that's your tax person, ask some of your friends who might know, hey, does your tax person do business type of taxes? A lot of them do, but some of them may not. If they're just looking for a quick buck, especially if they're one of those seasonal, we just look for a quick buck, they'll be like, cool, that's all they know. The ones who do business, they're doing taxes almost all year round. They're figuring things out. They're planning things. They're getting it ready for that. Those ones are going to have a lot more information. The reason why you want to know about that is because you want to be able to protect your assets. It is very important. One of the biggest things, like I said, diving into this aspect of protecting yourself from the matrix around you that you don't realize that's taking place around you until shit hits the fan. And then you're realizing, wait a minute, like people have access to this, people can do that, people could do this to your assets, your financial assets, any of your assets. And that's when you realize, wait a minute, like I have no protection against it. So learn to protect it by figuring out what you can do to protect it. Ask somebody specifically dealing with finances, but essentially what you want to start kind of diving to the realm of is maybe putting some of your things in specialized accounts, maybe even creating, I went over this before in the channel before too, creating an LLC, just a way to protect some of your assets, because that way if they're underneath an umbrella that's not you but it's a company, then they're protected from anyone trying to get a hold of them. In addition to that, things like what's the word I'm looking for right now, like a trust, things of that sort that you could dive into that protect your assets from people getting a hold of them. This is very important because once again, a lot of people don't realize how to protect their assets, and they may not realize that their assets need protecting until you get the, what is it inside the matrix? The red pill wakes you up or the blue pill keeps you in it? I don't know. I always forget, but you get woken up out of the matrix and you realize, oh my God, like what's going on? Like I just hit, something happened to me. I hit a wall and now I need answers, and my assets are in trouble, and now you're stuck without a way to protect yourself. So find out a way to protect your assets through that means as well. Like I said, so things like a trust, things like business, putting it in that way, or even a very simple plan. You have family that you trust, and sometimes I know it's hard to trust all family members, especially nowadays when it comes to, as you get older, you start running into situations where, you know, your family members might be harder for money. And at that point, they're kind of looking to do whatever, you know, like get something from whoever they can get something from, or whatever the case is. You might not trust them. But if you trust somebody like your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, somebody who you know, no matter what, would never steer you wrong or do you wrong, put some of your assets in their name. Even if it's not all of them, put some of them. So that way, if things go bad, you can go, you know what? I have a piece of the pie that is protected. This includes from your spouse. This is the kind of world we're living in. And the reason why I say that is because the government manipulates zombies. And what do I mean by that? So we have a lot of zombies that are running around nowadays, meaning no one who's really thinking on for themselves, people who aren't making sense, they don't have common sense, things that you should think are normal or baseline. These people are just thinking all types of things. It could be anybody. It's not a group of people. It can literally be somebody that you know, that you interact with all the time. It could be your best friend. It could be your spouse. It could be anybody who just at a drop of a dime, when things with those people don't go well anymore, you have the government who's looking to tempt them with things that will keep control of them and keep running the matrix the way it is. So a case in point, you might have people who are told to stay into a box by giving them certain benefits. And it could even be a friend where it doesn't even affect you. Let's just say it's one of your friends and you're like, hey, listen, like here goes a way for you to get out of this kind of system. And they're like, wait a minute, but I'm getting this whatever benefit and it's easy for me, so I'm just going to keep doing that. And you're like, yes, but if you do that, the ceiling is only but so high. You need to kind of shift the way you're thinking, and they don't want to, because the luxury of being able to stay complacent is addicting. Or case in point too, I always stress this, like a big deal as well. We're in a place now where people, relationships, family, though it's supposed to be important, do not last. You have people, especially in the dating world, that go from one to the next. You have social media, specifically when it comes to the dating world, families, marriages, all that, where people are just always on to the next, this and that. We're in an era now, and I've seen this more than I've ever seen it before, where people's families that you create, you and your spouse, that you think is supposed to last, doesn't last. And government, like I said, loves to manipulate zombies. They will tell that other person in your life that was something important in your life that they can provide them with all these benefits if they get rid of you. And so that's important to protect, even against the people who are right beside you. So I say that to say, put stuff in, maybe a family member's name. If that's the easy way to do it, it's not always the best or the safest way, but it's one of the easiest ways. Put it inside your mother's name, your father's name, if you trust them. But like I said before, also doing things like the more long-term thing is create an LLC to protect it. Like think about a trust or something like that, or whatever you got to do to separate your assets from being so vulnerable. Now, next is something that a lot of people are not going to really think about in this way, but it's so important. What I'm going to say right now is something that you probably never heard anybody say this before, but it's one of the most important things. View your children as an asset. They are your greatest asset. They will always be your greatest asset for multiple reasons, because they have so many dynamics to them for why they're beneficial in your life. They are your greatest asset. Now, obviously, you're going to love your children. You're going to love your kids. I'm not talking even about you loving them in terms of that. I'm talking about even from a investment standpoint of your life, a business standpoint of your life, from just even like an investment standpoint in your social aspect of your life, like the way you live, everything about it. Like they are the greatest investment of your life. I'm sorry, the greatest asset of your life. And the thing about it is, best believe the Matrix is looking at your children as an asset. They want to get your children because that is an asset to them. You need to view your children not just as, okay, I have my kids, they're part of the family, and I love them. I just want to see them do good. And then later on in life, they'll after they finish school, they'll go do something, this and that. That's great. That's nice. But the way we're living our life now, you need to view them as your most precious asset and understand wholeheartedly that the government is trying to get them. The society is trying to get them. The Matrix is trying to get them. This is how it all works. Don't let them get a hold of your children. I'm not talking about as far as teaching your children. That's a whole different thing. I'm talking about don't let them physically get a hold of their children. They will take your children away. That is their goal. So what does this mean? So first off, one of the biggest goals of society and government in the US is to be able to take your children. But the problem is they don't have rights to your children. At least that's what you believe. The thing about it is the moment, like I said before, government likes to manipulate zombies. If you have a weak spouse, they will target your spouse to give up your rights. They'll use them to take your rights for your greatest asset. And that way you don't have them anymore. Why? Because they understand that family is the most important aspect to freedom inside the US. It's understanding finance and it's family. And they know that. That's the biggest thing. And we'll dive into that in another video, just kind of regarding the biggest thing that makes change in society, the biggest thing that will make or break even any kind of group of people, dynamic of people, whatever the case is, it's family and finances. So, but your children are viewed as an asset hand in hand with finances to the matrix, to the government. When I say the matrix, I mean not just the government, society, all aspects of things. It may not be government. Society could also just be influencers out there inside the world who have a loud voice. But your children are your greatest asset. So your goal is to protect them, invest in them, make sure they cannot be taken. So first off, like I mentioned before about putting away assets in terms of financial assets, make sure, especially as a man, this could apply to a woman as well, depending in the boat that you're in. But I know there are a lot of men who go through this. It's very important. You need to put away some of your financial assets, not just for savings, not just for all these kind of things, like in terms of investments for your future to retire, this and that. You need to specifically and separately put away a savings from when you're young. I hope that this reaches people who are like in their young 20s, a savings to protect your children from being taken away from you, from specifically the matrix trying to get to your partner. Now, some people, there are gonna be things that hold them from your partner being taken away from you in that way. But society is in a place now, like I just said, with the dating market, this and that, family market, social media. People are wild right now. Nobody wants to stick around with anybody. Nobody understands what it means as far as family. There are some people who don't even understand that the family they create is supposed to be more important than the family they came from, meaning that their mom and siblings, their dad, and whatever the case is, brothers, sisters, all the siblings, stuff like that. They don't even understand that. And that the family you create with them is not temporary, it's forever. So with that being said, you have to have finances to protect anyone from taking your greatest asset. Be aware that you do not have rights over your kids if the courts come after your spouse and ask them, can we have permission to take away the rights of the person you're with, which is you? And they will give permission when they are not on the same page with you. And when they do that, you completely lose that. And this is done because the way the system works is it knows that if they get that from you, not only do they have access now to a certain level of your freedom by making you do things, whether it's, the time that you're able to see your kids or this and that, they're able to take your finances now. They're able to take your finances for child support. Obviously, in addition to that, they could even take it for things like alimony, but that's only if you're married and things of that sort. But at the same, but the major thing is child support is the thing that's unavoidable. This is part of the system. A lot of people, I'm trying to break this down and really emphasize this as much as people to get them to understand. This is part of the system where your kids should never be a burden to you. And kids don't normally cost that much. Contrary to what people think, they don't really cost that much. But when the government wants to, and this is part of their control of society, they take a two-person partnership, take one, turn them against the other, especially if the other one is the major breadwinner or is the one who has the plans to develop the family. Because like I said before, the family is how you survive in society. You survive because you end up getting generational wealth, all that kind of stuff comes through family. They know this. If you have generational wealth, you break out of the system, at least to a larger degree. They don't have control over you as much because now you're not bound by the same rules because you have assets that allow you to navigate this system. They know that the only way to do that is to get control of you, get control of your kids. So that way, there's no one to pass money down to. Two, they mess up their way of thinking. So now they aren't going to even care about things like generational wealth. And three, they aren't going to care that you're trying to teach it to them because by separating you from them, they're not gonna listen to your message if your message was positive. And then, like I said, 3, they get to control you now directly through your children, through your spouse who has now gone against you. So this is a very big deal as far as that control. So that's something you want to protect yourself against. So what do? You put away money, you put away finances to protect that they cannot take that person from you. That will sometimes cost you a lot. You're gonna have to really, this is why it's so important for even at a young age in your 20s to put aside that money. Now, if, God willing, you never need to use it, that will just be something that you can just seep right over into like your future in terms of investment, in terms of what you can give to your kids. But you need to have it because you actually need to keep your kids around, protect them from being taken from you. So that way you even have something to invest in. The other thing I mentioned was, besides for protecting them, physically from all the dangers that exist out there. And that's another thing too, safety wise, where we think that we're safe. No one's really safe anymore. Like it's not to say we were safe before, but there is people are becoming a lot more unhinged in this world at this point now. So it's a bigger deal to physically protect yourselves. I'm not going to go into that in detail because that's self-explanatory, but also investing in your kids. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, there's investing in terms of the mindset of them. And I don't mean simply, invest in them in terms of them, they go to school, this and that. That's already self-explanatory. But investing in them about you teaching them the mindset you want them to carry on in terms of, 1, learning how to, like we just mentioned earlier, saving and budgeting, accumulating assets so they can rinse and repeat and do the same thing that you're trying to do. This is very important because whatever legacy you want to leave down to them and the assets you want to leave, you want to know they know how to manage it. You want them to be the next king of your kingdom, so you want them to be able to say when they become of age, I'm going to take care of my kids and pass down to them stuff the same way that you did to them. And you want them to know how to manage the wealth that you're going to try to give them as much as possible so they can manage it like an empire, manage it like a, what's the word I'm looking for? I'll just describe it. So how like someone will have like a trust and they'll have like a state. I think that's what I'm looking for. That's the word I'm looking for, a state. And they would have an entire, whether it's a company, whether it's assets, financial assets, whatever, the whole cumulative is your estate, your whole estate of your wealth that you give down. And they know how to manage it, distribute it, make sure it doesn't run out, know how to make it multiply. This is what I mean by to say that you're investing them mentally, you're investing into your kids mentally to learn how to do that. You're also investing in them in the aspect of making sure that by doing all these things, they're going to love you, they're going to appreciate you, they're going to respect you. And I have made a video in the past about social retirement or relationship retirement or whatever you want to call it, but essentially, or family retirement, whatever you want to call it. But I think I called it social retirement. And where your children now appreciate you enough that when you get to the age where you can't do anything anymore, they don't have you in an old folks home. They're appreciative of you. They have you at their home. They have a room for you. You're able to come sit in the living room. You live there with them. And when the grandkids come by or they're over there, live with you, whatever the case is, they now look at you and worship you because they know you put all this together. You don't want to be one of those people where you're 80 years old, 90 years old, and you're in an old folks home by yourself. So there's that aspect of it too. So enough on the point with the kids, but you get the idea. They're your greatest asset. You take care of them and make sure no one can take them away from you. Protect yourself from losing them in every aspect, because if you lose your kids in any way, you lose not only them, which is your greatest asset, you also lose a piece of you, because through them, the matrix is able to attack all of your all your other assets almost directly. Obviously, if you have them protected, some of them won't be able to be attacked, but a lot of them that aren't protected will be able to be attacked through them getting a hold of your kids. So last we have 2 concepts, and I'll go by one, then the other one. First is research ways to protect yourself physically. This is, I don't have to go deep into this, But what I mean by that is learn your Second Amendment rights. Learn even things like when it comes to, and I'm not saying this to promote any kind of violence, so I don't want you guys to take it in that way. But learn the laws of you maybe carrying a everyday daily knife. I've done that on this channel where I reviewed little knives that I recently got into and I even gifted to a family member, but something that you can carry every day. Learn the rules on that. What's okay to carry, what's not okay for your state. Learn the rules of getting a firearm permit. We are living in a crazy world right now. You don't know, what to expect, what's going to happen. Understand also that there's some states where it doesn't require permits, and you can just simply have a background check. Other ones that do require permits, see if maybe you don't want to live in the same place where it's going to be hard for you to get protection. These are things, even home protection is easier. Figure that out. Maybe if it's easier for you to have access to home protection, which it usually always is, then you can do that. And then make sure that you just have that sense of understanding that if things ever get bad, you just make your way home like everyone always does. So I won't go too deep into that. But the other last thing is establishing community. This is also part of protecting yourself. Establishing community, but not physically. This is protecting yourself in terms of exactly what we're talking about now. This is you establishing yourself with a community that not people who are below you in terms of their goals and their aspirations, people who are on your same level or above that can contribute to the pool, contribute to the community pool. That way you're surrounded by people where if you need to brainstorm, you need a plan, you need things that you got to talk about. Maybe you need to politic about a few things. Hey, listen, like I said earlier, you need to find out about financial planning. Hey, who's your tax person? If you're dealing with someone who never does taxes because they financially aren't even in that space to be dealing with that kind of stuff, or whatever the case is, you get the point. You want to be able to have people who have benefits in their life that you network with them and it's a benefit to you. They themselves are asset. The community is an asset. You all help each other. In addition, you all elevate each other to the next level. You guys all encourage each other. This helps because it keeps anyone from falling to the baseline. And it also, like I said, allows it to be where if you need advice, you need help, you need assistance with things, just even advice, not necessarily you need help because you're down and out. Maybe you need advice on how to navigate certain things. Maybe one of your people in your community that you now establish, and I don't mean community as far as where you live necessarily, but a group of friends that you put together or acquire, that there's an asset to each of you that benefits each other. And in your little community, you have things where maybe someone knows something that you don't know. You know something they don't know. You guys trade information all the time. You guys help each other out. This is very important for a lot of people who navigate the matrix. That is one of their biggest protections, is knowing someone who has the answers or has the connections, and you are able to have certain connections of your own, maybe based on the work field you are, maybe based on the assets that you put away. Maybe you're somebody who you don't know about a whole bunch of different things, but maybe you bought a house, maybe you bought 2 houses, and your friends can come to you when they might be, hey, I need maybe a place to stay. Can you rent me out a place to stay? Whatever the case is, the point is you're providing something to your community that you created, your little community. And I don't want to get confused with that word. What I'm saying community is the one that you're building, that I'm telling you to build, not just your living community. It's not about for you to help everybody around you. That's a different conversation. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about you protecting yourself by having these people in your life that you guys are able to grow off of and encourage each other, and also share ideas, even go into business with each other, push forward. This also is going to play a big role in terms of, say if, the world, the US, everything should hit the fan really bad and all of a sudden things just get crazy. You want to have a good group that you could say, listen, let's all bunker down. Let's all come together. We're going to all be in the same space. We're all going to whatever. In addition to, community is important because just like you're investing in your kids, they will have kids and their kids are going to be the partners to your kids. They're going to be the people who help your kids get through as they establish each other, as they grow up. When their kids and your kids are ballpark about the same age, say in their 30s, and they're discovering the world, they want to know someone's by their side. Now, obviously not just their parents, because at that point you guys are going to be too old to actually go through every step with them. They need peers that can go through those steps with them that they have. So by you establishing community, you're giving them a peer group that they can roll with. You know what I mean? And that's important too. So very important. So many aspects of community. If you guys want, we could break down a whole video just in diving to all the benefits of community and what that looks like in itself, because I think it's very important for people to have that and how that benefits. But nonetheless, I really do hope that you guys were able to take all this in and really kind of listen to the message being sent, and that it was able to benefit you guys. If you guys have any questions, post them down below in the comments. We will be sure to answer those questions on the next video or at a later time. And even if we need to, kind of really do a deep dive on whatever other topics might come from this topic, from your questions down below. As always, you guys be safe, take care, like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.